Hi, I'm Matt. Welcome to SuperCard Models. Today what I'm going to be doing is showing you the footage from me assembling the rear bumper for the Gallardo. Now, finishing up the rear bumper was a pretty big milestone because it meant that the whole bodywork, all of the bodywork for the Gallardo was then finished. There's still a bunch of things to do in upcoming videos, like assembling the wheels and all the interior bits and pieces and the engine and the gearbox, etc. But finishing the bodywork was a big milestone, as I say. So let's get started and I'll show you how I built the rear bumper. Okay, so here's a quick look over my Adobe Illustrator file, where I've designed and documented all the plans for all the parts for the rear bumper. And it took me maybe a couple of months in my spare time to design all the parts. And I've put each part on its own separate layer and named the layers accurately so that I know what's what when I look back on it later on. I've also added some important assembly notes here and there in red text, and I'm thinking they will be useful later on if I come to build another Gallardo from these plans in the future. And here's a close-up of one of the carbon fibre style parts, which I've given a custom fill in Illustrator. And I print these parts out on glossy photo paper, and they end up looking pretty realistic in the end. I also have another artboard in this file, where I've documented plans for the exhaust tip parts, and I'll show you how they're assembled shortly. So once I've printed out all the parts for my plans, and used those as a guide to cut out the final parts from the various boards and cards, this is what I end up with. First, I glue a series of foam core board parts together to create the underlying structure or foundation assembly for the rear bumper. And even though the rear bumper is removable, I'll do most of the assembly work with it fitted to the car so that I can make sure that everything fits well and the outer panels align with the rear panels of the bodywork itself. Now I'm fitting a 1000 GSM piece, which attaches with various tabs, some of which are on the bottom of the part and push into slots in the foam core board structure, and others fold and glue to the uprights on each end of the structure. Next, I can assemble the 4 exhaust tips. And each exhaust tip is simply made up of 2 rolled up strips of light card. So the outer strip is cut from grey card, and there's an inner lining which I've cut from black card. The exhaust tips are separate from the bumper assembly and sit into 2 bracket assemblies which mount to the Gallardo's rear frame. So I'm assembling the 2 brackets now, just from foam core board parts. Cool, so now I can mount the exhaust tip brackets to the rear frame and continue assembly of the rear bumper structure. The rear bumper on a Gallardo features a large full-width kind of mesh or grill panel. I used my newly acquired Cricut cutting machine to cut this one out. Once the file is set up in the Cricut software, I just need to attach a square of black light card to the cutting mat, feed that into the machine, and press go. It takes about maybe 15 to 20 minutes for it to cut out like hundreds of tiny little hexagons to create the grill. But that's way easier, because like previously I would have spent forever just cutting this part out by hand with my craft knife. I'm continuing to build up the underlying structure with 1000 GSM poster board parts now. This is another layer that I've cut from light card, and it has a whole bunch of tabs which I'll use to attach the final outer body panels to. Then I can prepare and fit the first outer body panels, which I've cut from shiny black foil board. Now I will assemble the lower half of the rear bumper. So on a real Gallardo, this section will be like a carbon fibre diffuser, which is an integral component of the car's aerodynamics, helping to create downforce and stability at speed. There's an underlying structure which is made from a combination of foam core board pieces and heavy black poster board parts. I'll construct this lower section in a couple of main sub-assemblies, the first of which attaches to the main bumper structure with one large tab. Then I assemble the second main sub-assembly, starting with the brake light section. Next I can glue together the main part of the second sub-assembly, and this one has a series of aerodynamic fins. And again, this is made up of a mix of foam core board parts and heavy black poster board parts. Now that the structure of the subassembly is basically complete, I can cover the whole thing with an outer layer of carbon fibre looking pieces. And as usual, I've cut those from sheets of glossy photo paper, which I've printed out on my A4 colour printer. I need to go around and blacken the edges of all the carbon fibre looking pieces with my Sharpie pen so that the white edges of the paper can't be seen. Some of these pieces also need a bit of folding and pre-shaping too.
Do I wanna try? Can I let it go? We're running from the past, wanting to be sure. Chaos in my mind, constant deja vu. But every time, it comes back to you.
There are still a few white edges showing at this point, so I'll do some more touch-ups with my black Sharpie pen. So that's the second subassembly almost finished. And I'll fit that to the rest of the bumper now. And again, it attaches mostly with tabs and slots. First, I do a test fit to make sure that everything is lining up well, which it does. And then I can remove the bumper again and glue the subassemblies together so that they can't come apart. And there's really only a handful of final detail finishing parts left, so carry on carefully fitting those now. So because the bumper is assembled now, I know where the exhaust tip apertures or openings are, and I can finally fit and align the exhaust tips exactly where they need to be. Once they're positioned perfectly, I can remove the bumper carefully and glue the exhaust tips in place. So that's it, the rear bumper and the exhaust tips are done. So that also meant that the bodywork was completely finished for the Gallardo, and it had taken several years of my spare time to create all the parts needed to get it to this point. Yeah, so that's the bodywork for the Gallardo all completely done. And the next thing I did after that was I designed and built the wheels. You can actually see some in the background there. So next video I'll show you how I designed and built those. So make sure you check that one out. If you're building something like this yourself, or you've got some questions about what I'm building here, message me at matt@supercardmodels.com, or DM me on Instagram, for example, or just leave a comment below. That'd be awesome. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.